I was a collegiate athlete and a scholar, mostly an athlete, not a scholar. But we had a coach that used to say, "Hey, if you just get one, like, just focus on getting 1% better every single day. And if you get 1% better every day, you get 37% better over the year." And just going into, especially an industry where, the 7 words that kill most businesses is, well, we've always done it that way. We've always done it this way. It might be more or less than seven, but you take an industry that has a lot of demand. People need those services. It's the arguably the largest expense people will ever have is taxes. And that's the surface level. That's that keeps them up at night. I when I train other CPAs and I train other marketers, I ask, yeah, you have your bookkeeping firm, your CPA firm, your tax firm, but like what keeps your customers up at night?
Welcome to the world's greatest minds, where the most successful, impactful, and creative game changers on the planet deliver their hardest hitting advice in 30 minutes or less. Every guest is specifically handpicked, there's no paid placements allowed, and every conversation is completely authentic and entirely unscripted. Big ideas, raw conversations, and real impact. This is World's Greatest Minds, and the revolution of thought starts now. Today on World's Greatest Minds, we sit down with Ryan Bakke, CPA, real estate investor, digital marketer, and the mind behind one of the fastest growing accounting firms in the United States. By 25 years old, Ryan was already a millionaire, the prick. By 27, he'd crossed $7 million in net worth. And at 26, he hit his first $1 million take-home year. But what really makes Ryan stand out isn't the money, it's how he did it by taking a traditionally very boring service-based industry and rebuilding it with storytelling, digital marketing, and bold experimentation. Today, Ryan runs a 40-person, $5 million accounting firm, teaching thousands of entrepreneurs through his platforms and helps service-based founders scale through offshore hiring, digital systems, and buying businesses. He's a CPA disguised as a marketer, or I actually think he's a marketer disguised as a CPA. Either way, he's redefining what's possible in the accounting world. Ryan, thanks for being here, dude. I appreciate you.
Thank you for the intro, Kasim.
Yeah. Dude, for as long as I've known you, you've been really pushing hard against like what's possible and, the boundaries, let's say, which is a dangerous thing to do in your industry because we're talking about like real risks, right? Like there's real money. And I just think it's so impressive the way that you've taken something that everybody kind of thought it was cooked. It was done. It was like, this is how we do an accounting firm. And you really reimagined it. I'm curious where that came from. Like, where does the mindset to step into an established ecosystem and think, you know what? I'm 23 years old. I think I can do this better than all you fools. Where does that come from?
I think it originated from when I played volleyball in college. I was a collegiate athlete and a scholar, mostly an athlete, not a scholar. But we had a coach that used to say, "Hey, if you just get just focus on getting 1% better every single day. And if you get 1% better every day, you get 37% better over the year." And just going into, especially an industry where, the 7 words that kill most businesses is, well, we've always done it that way. We've always done it this way. It might be more or less than seven, but you take an industry that has a lot of demand. People need those services. It's arguably the largest expense people will ever have is taxes. And that's the surface level. That's that keeps them up at night. When I train other CPAs and I train other marketers, I ask, yeah, you have your bookkeeping firm, your CPA firm, your tax firm, but like what keeps your customers up at night? What's going through their head? It's like if I get surprised with a $4,000 tax bill, that means that I can't close on my next primary residence, or I can't send my kid to school, or I can't do this, and that. So we look at it. We go 5 questions deep on sales calls with whys. It's like, I want to save money on taxes. Great. Why? So I have more money. Okay, great. Why? So I can have more time. I don't have to work as much. Okay, great. Why? So I can spend more time with my family. That's the real why. And if you can get the prospect to admit or say the real reason why they want to sign up for your service, then it's really hard for them to say no at the end of the call because they just told you the real reason why. And for them saying no to your offer means saying no to the real reason why.
Dude, that's a really extraordinary unlock. If you're listening to this, that's worth rewinding. If you can identify somebody's real motivation, not the surface level motivation, the root motivation. I couldn't agree with you more. As long as your offer connects to that motivation, right? That's the prerequisite. And then they really have no choice other than, if they believe you can deliver. How do you do that? How do you put yourself in it? Because every CPA I talk to, I think to myself, I'm like, you're just another one. Like it's just dime a dozen. I've been through them all. I've got my guy. It took me a dozen years to find him. How do you convince somebody that you really are who you say you are?
So the CPA license itself holds a lot of credibility. of course, in the financial world. But I gotta be honest, I mean, we get so many new customers. These people are paying 10, 12, $15,000 a year sometimes. And it's not because of course they think I can solve their problem.
Mhm.
Of course I can run a CPA firm. Of course we can get their tax return or bookkeeping work done. But sometimes people say, Ryan, the reason why we signed up with you is because you told a story about when your dad got laid off from work when you were 12 and you couldn't play basketball that year. They talk about the story that I tell when I left corporate America to do something better. You know, they tell about the stories that I have of people who had money in my family that blew it all and wasted it.
Mm,
And so they know that you can solve their problem. That's surface level. But can you be relatable to them? That's what sells. I have a thing I learned from Dan Kennedy. He said that you need to have a personal asset list of stories and analogies and metaphors that you use to certain people or certain types of crowds, right? So if I'm speaking in front of an audience that is mostly to corporate America, like I'm going to tell the story of when I was on my partner's rooftop at Deloitte in Chicago and he said, "Man, being partner is great, but my daughter just turned 18 and I've only been to 3 of her soccer games in her entire life." Very next day, I formed my first LLC. You know,
wow.
if I'm speaking in front of a crowd that are already entrepreneurs, you know, I might say something like, "Hey, yeah, we're all here to learn about saving money on taxes and growing our wealth, but you know the real reason why we're here is because we don't have to explain ourselves to other people. How many times do you go have to go to your friends that work W-2s and they're like, "Oh, you're going to buy a rental property? You're crazy. What happens if the tenant calls at 3 a.m. because the toilet's backed up, right?" I'm like, "Hey guys, you don't have to explain yourself here." And so that's the real reason why they're signing up is the stories that we tell and the way that we make them feel.
Mm,
That's been the biggest takeaway for me. It's about knowing what story or analogy to use to a certain demographic, right? So, John McCain's a good example of this. So he was a prisoner of war, but he would never tell that story unless he was speaking in front of a conservative audience because he just knew that other people would not relate to that
yeah.
story. Yeah.
That's it. So, question, and this will be maybe more combative than I mean for it to be, and it's a compliment, but it becomes a backhanded compliment. You're young. How old are you?
Mm. 27.
27. How does a 27-year-old tell a story that can connect with a 40, 50, 60-year-old business owner, entrepreneur? Like, how do you find the empathy necessary to reach beyond your years and place yourself in a position of being able to connect with them, regardless of that age chasm?
You find similarities, right? Everybody's got a good story about their dad or mom. Everybody's got a story about the first time that they tried something and it didn't work out. Hey, you tried it, it didn't work out, but were you on the right plan to begin with? Let's talk about it, right?
Yeah.
When in order to make if you can make things that are similar seem familiar to people, you can relate to people. So I go to stories of everybody has stories from in their childhood. Everybody has stories of their first, you know, corporate job or their first hand at entrepreneurship. So you don't necessarily have to relate to somebody that's twice your age on a like personal level, but you go back to what is everybody familiar with?
Mm,
Disney stories. People grew up watching Disney movies and stories, and it's all the same story arc framework, right?
yeah.
You
Joseph
know,
Campbell.
Shrek's sitting there in his mud hut doing nothing, and then he gets a letter saying that the princess is trapped in the castle. The hero has to decide if they're going to accept the call to action or not. And of course, they're the heroes, so they accept the call to action. So then Shrek's marching, right? And then, you know, a sidekick gets introduced. There's Donkey, right? There's a love interest that develops. That's Fiona. And there's a villain of a story, you know, and a lot of the stories that I tell, our common enemy is the IRS, banks, corporate America, the laws that be that prevent, you know, people from the middle class moving up to high class or lower class to middle class. Like find a common enemy and this, you know, the enemy is my friend.
Mm.
And read a lot of books. Like read a lot of books and meet a lot of people that have done it before.
What
I
are you
mean,
reading
one
right now?
I'm reading Persuasion by Robert Cialdini again.
Yeah. So
I
this is
just
a reread for you.
oh yeah. Yeah, yeah.
If you were to offer a reading list to our listeners, what do you think is a prerequisite?
Anything Robert Cialdini is amazing. I really liked Exactly What to Say by Phil M. Jones.
Mm,
It's super easy to read. It's maybe this thick. It teaches you exactly what to say to de-escalate situations, to sell more stuff, to talk people off the ladder. It's a manuscript for persuasion, if you ask me. I like one book that I read probably 5 times now is Rockefeller's 38 Letters to His Son.
hmm.
That there's so much timeless wisdom in that book, and it almost as if he wrote it today. Like there's some books that a lot of Napoleon Hill
I'm
stuff,
back.
stands the test of time. What
Yeah,
else?
I just added exactly what to say to my wish list. That's great, dude. I really appreciate that. The thing that's interesting about, and again, another backhanded compliment, most numbers guys aren't empaths. You know what I mean? Like they're not thinking the way that you're thinking. Is that something that you were born with? Is it something you cultivated over time? Like where did, the left brain, obviously, because you're clearly really good at what you're doing. And that's something that I've been trying to, I don't know, like you run this great big community of people that follow you. You have a name in the industry for having proven results, maybe beyond what other people can do. So you've got the numbers in the left brain, but then you also have the right brain. Like how did you cultivate both sides?
It's when I found out that IQ alone can only take you so far, right? The kids that get it 36s on their ACTs in high school, they go to Stanford or MIT or Harvard, and then they go and work for, corporate America or like a business. They don't go to run their own business, right? I've most of the people that I hire have more advanced degrees than me, but IQ can only, like, traditional IQ can only take you so far. Emotional intelligence, right? EQ, emotional. Yeah, there's IQ, there's EQ, right? So it's like, yeah, you can be smart, but are you smart in the sense of persuasion to, like, persuade the people that you want to lead the people that you want to? That is a whole different level of understanding, because it's not the people who are the smartest, it's people who adapt the quickest. And that to me is the game changer for me. It's like you can only get so smart IQ wise, but learning persuasion, storytelling, how to do sales, like that will take you further than anything just traditional IQ.
Talk
Because
to me a little bit.
even if you were the smartest person in the world in real estate tax, how do you convince people that you're the smartest in the world at that?
Yeah, it's the classic, I'm focusing on YouTube right now for my content creation. And the thing that they say over and over and over again, every thought leader you listen to is if they don't click, they don't watch. And that thesis, that paradigm can be extended to everything. It's exactly what you just said. If you can't convince somebody of the introductory thesis, whatever that ends up being, you can't get them into the overarching narrative. You said a word that I want to pursue. You said adapt. With the world going where it's going, AI doing what it's doing, which is blowing my mind every single day. Every single day I wake up and I get my mind blown by something. How are you adapting to this new ecosystem? Are you excited for what's on the horizon? Do you see some forced obsolescence? Are you, like what's your balance right now between fear and excitement?
I'm very bullish on AI and using it in our businesses. Like we're already using it mostly in like communication to people and being able to summarize complex things and boil it down to something that somebody can understand. I learned this through Perry actually, but when I first started sending emails, when you type out emails, it's just like writing a paper in college. You tend to say more words than you actually need to in order to make a point because you're trying to hit the right word count. And when I was sending out emails, I was sending emails out at 11th grade reading level. Nobody understands that. The average person reads at a fourth grade reading level. That's why there's a show called Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Right? Or there used to be anyway.
Have you
What?
watched it? It's funny because I don't know what the answer to any of the things
Oh,
I
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And but when before ChatGPT and Gemini and all this stuff, there used to be a thing called Hemingway, like
Yeah,
Ernest Hemingway,
sure.
and I would put my copy in there, and then I would say, "Hey, rewrite this at a fourth grade reading level." I saw such a high increase in how many people were reading it, and therefore how many people were clicking the email.
Hmm.
Right? A lot of CPAs don't send 500,000 emails a month like I do.
Is that
You
what
know?
you're at 500,000 emails a month?
Yeah, to our
Help me
list.
is that, and feel free not to answer any questions you don't wanna answer. Is that one send to 500,000 people? Like, what's your list versus permeation? How often are you touching, and what's your strategy there?
We have about a 35,000 person list overall, right? So the way that it works is we try to do a weekly newsletter, weekly email, but then we might also do emails that are promoting like a 2-day workshop or a 2-day event to get them excited about it. But we have like rabbit hole funnels set up, is what I call them. So if they open an email, they click on it, they engage it in it. Guess what happens? They get another email, right? If they open that one, click that one, engage with that one, guess what happens? They get another email. So it's like people will go down this rabbit hole of, well, they'll go and open and read 4 or 5 emails of mine in one day. So it's like you start with that weekly letter that goes out to everybody. And then you have the almost like a tripwire set up. So if they consume that, they like it, they click that, then they get another email that might have a
Every email I open, so the weekly goes out.
Mhm.
if I click on any of the links inside of the weekly and pursue what I imagine is it's web-based now, but then you're gonna send me another email, and does that email relate to what I clicked on, or is it just the next email in the sequence?
It relates to what you click on. So it's all about solving a problem that creates a new problem at the same time,
Mm,
right? So I'll give you an example, the one that we just did. People who are selling their primary residence. Hey, are you selling your primary residence soon? Did you know about this $500,000 exclusion that if you're married for at least 2 years, you can sell your home for up to $500,000 completely tax free?
mm.
Want to learn more? Click this link. Boom, they click it. Then another email fires off. Hey, about that last email, I want to further dive into this, right? Because what if your gain's over 800,000? Well, now you have, if your gain's 800,000,
300,000 is taxable.
let's talk about it, right?
Yeah.
What can you do to offset it,
So
right?
what could you do? Just give me an example. Like, what are the strategies?
Easiest thing is you can take all the stuff that you've improved on your property, like all your renovations, all those costs add up to your cost basis. Not a lot of people know about that because nobody ever asks people for that information because those are personal
Yeah,
things in
I
their
redid
house.
my
So they would,
bathroom. It cost me 60 grand, but I did it 4 years ago. Can I carry that 60 grand forward and use it to adjust my cost basis?
Mhm,
That's
exactly.
awesome.
Yep. But nobody has a running list of like everything that they spent on their house. They're like, oh, I think our deck was, 8 grand and I think this was that, but nobody actually has a list. So one of the freebies we might give them is a template to do that list for them.
Mm.
Right? This is just an example, but when it's all said and done, it's like they open the email, they consume it, they click another link, they read that email, and then next thing you know, 2 days later, they're on the call, a sales call with us.
And is there a call to action at the bottom of every email to hop on a call? Like you're constantly giving them the bottom of the funnel?
Normally, the second email, if they click on the second email, will be the book a call.
And yeah, that was gonna be my question is what's the conversion event? You're sending them to like a Calendly link?
We send them, yeah, a Calendly link, go high level calendar. My best tips of advice with that are, short booking window. It's so funny how many people still have their Calendly booking window for the
45
entire
days
month.
out, dude. I know it's yeah.
Well, you're burning money.
Yeah.
I had
You
somebody that's in my program that it was like September of last year, and she wasn't able to book meetings until November. I'm like, you're just lighting money on fire.
Hey, I'm about to go add that and I will attribute it to you because I think it's such a good, simple pro tip. Short booking windows. Dude, I like this a lot. I like the rabbit hole email nurture idea. Again, to our listeners, this is really worth paying attention to. If somebody's reading and engaging with your content, people are so afraid to send, dude. Everybody's so like, oh no, I don't want to send them. I don't want to piss them off. And it's like, you want to make some money? Like if they're reading, send again. If they're reading, send again. If they're reading, send again. If they stop reading, then I assume you stop sending, right? Until the next week.
Any and even if they might not even open them, every
Yeah.
single one, right? But then you kind of go into like, okay, what's my 90-day activity? Who's been opening? We purge our email list every now and then for the non-openers, right? But
What
every
do you do
digital
with the
marketer,
non-openers? Do you put them in a reactivation campaign or do you
oh yeah,
just like, okay.
a blitz of like, hey, haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on?
Mm,
Are you all is everything in your financial and tax life handled? Like we put them in a welcome blitz before we kick them out. Hey, click here if you would not like to be added to our email list in the future. Right? Every digital marketer knows that you can send a daily email if you wanted to.
yeah. That's Ryan Dice's old drum to beat. He was like, if you're not sending a daily email, you're leaving money on the table. It's interesting how email just always makes the resurgence and comes right back around, dude. Curious about one thing that I have in my dossier on you that really obviously struck my attention because it's my favorite drum to beat. But apparently, you've got your own playbook for offshore hiring.
I think so. I like
Yeah.
to
What are
think
you
so.
doing there? Like, give us the pro tips. What's the unlock?
I think the first high level, it goes back to like Henry Ford's 10-80-10 rule. So in the last book that Henry Ford wrote before he died, he talked about how he created the assembly line, with the
Yeah.
Model T. And he said if we got to control the first 10%, which is like the parts that go on the conveyor belt, and then 80% of the work of like putting the car together can be done by other people. And then the last 10% is obviously test driving the car, making sure all the pistons and cylinders and everything's firing, right? Well, that's the same thing that I kind of look at with professional service based businesses when it comes to hiring offshore staff. It's like you're going to probably do the sales call, the relationship building, and close the sale. Let your team handle the other 80% of the work,
Mm,
the back end, the document collection, entering numbers into a spreadsheet, whatever that delivery looks like. And then that last 10% is delivered by you, the service professional. Or if you get your team up to par, maybe they can deliver that. But it's like this 10-80-10 rule where it's like if you can control the first 10% client facing and you can control the last 10% client facing, you can have offshore staff do the other 80%. That's where I believe anyway, right?
Yeah, so you're bookending it basically. Where are you going offshore? What geographies have proven valuable?
So for especially in the accounting and tax world, India is still probably the leader in terms of people who are technical, analytical. They lack, English, right? So very thick accents at times, but they're smartest people in the world. They just lack English, right? Or being able to speak to customers, for example. We've also done, hired in the Philippines as well. They're kind of like a blend between they're good analytically. They have way better English than India. Had some troubles with in the Philippines. It's very common for them to work multiple jobs, and that was a really hard struggle for me these last couple of years because it's like you don't need to go work at my company for 20 hours a week and make $10 an hour and go work at another company 20 hours a week and make $10 an hour. It's like just work for me for 40 hours a week. You'll make the same amount of money.
Yeah.
But it's not it's
What do you think that is? Do you think they're diversifying risk? Are they worried about all their eggs in one basket?
They're worried about US-based companies just treating them like shit, to be
Mm,
honest with you. Like, they just have that in their mind that they're replaceable. US-based companies normally treat them like shit, so that's why I think they do that. In terms of the actual hiring hierarchy of this, what we do is, like, let's say you're gonna go to an online onlinejobsph.com. God forbid you do that, but if you do that, in the body of the kinda like your job application or job description, we like to put it around the 70% mark. We like to put, "Hey, serious candidates should email back with the subject this." So then that way we're screening for people who actually took the time to read the entire thing
yeah.
rather than just reply, like spam reply. And I learned this lesson from Van Halen, actually. Crazy story. I'm sure you might have heard about it, but because Van Halen would go on tour, they'd play 3 cities in 3 days. So everything had to be right, like the pyrotechnics, the stage setup, the back room, and in the contract that Eddie Van Halen had with these places, he'd said, "Hey, we need to have these many bottles of wine in the back, beers, food, women, and I want a bowl of M&Ms in the break room, but I don't want any brown M&Ms. Take all the brown ones out." Right? So the venue would sign the agreement, Van Halen would show up. The first thing that Eddie Van Halen did when he got there was went to go check the
Check the
bowl of
M&Ms.
M&Ms. If he saw brown M&Ms in there, he knew they had to check the whole thing because the
Interesting.
people did not read the contract, right? So in our training and our onboarding for offshore, we have Easter eggs. Only the people that go through that and actually go through that will be able to figure out what the Easter eggs are. So for example, it might be like a 30-minute training video and then 17 minutes in, it just cuts to me saying, "Hey, if you're watching this right now, send this to here," right? So then we know that if they actually went through the whole training or not. So I learned that from Van Halen, like planning Easter eggs in your onboarding. But even once somebody is a employee, 3 weeks in, we'll just cut their access to something.
Let's see whether or not they
See how
notice.
quickly they reach out,
That's
right?
so funny.
Hey, we cut their email off at 12 their time. Are they getting back to us by 1 or are they telling us at 5 or 6 o'clock? Right?
Dude, that's diabolical.
You got to when you run a business, man. I
Yeah, I
mean,
love
you
it.
know
I
that.
so I do the same thing on the hiring front. I call them fly traps, and I've got some really good ones.
Fly
I'll send
traps.
people
Yeah.
trial projects, but like, they need a username and password to log into something, and I send them the wrong password, and I wait to see how long until they follow up. I've never thought about doing it with employees after the fact, though. That's really, really good. I'm gonna steal
Just
that from you.
within the first month and maybe continuously too, just to see if because it's like there unless you have which we opened up a 30-person office in Bolivia in Southern America.
Mhm.
So we have people like in seats there. So we'll have like managers and stuff kind of monitor them. But like most of them work from home, right? So it's like how do you know they're actually working when
Right.
they're supposed to be working? All right. It's a challenge.
I like that a lot. What am I not asking you that I should be asking you? What would a smarter person ask you?
Mm. I would go back to like the people who are the most successful entrepreneurs are the best marketers by far, right? You don't have a business if you don't have marketing. There's no customers, there's no product to be fulfilled if you don't have marketing. And I think the challenge is especially when you transcend and you grow through, your first $1 million year, your first $2 million year, your first $3 million year, whatever it is. It's like there comes that push and pull of like, hey, do I sell more work and then do I backfill labor, or do I hire on staff and incur a bunch of payroll costs without the revenue coming in? I've been on both sides. I'll tell you, I know which one I like to do more. That lets me sleep better at night, and it's go market and then backfill labor. People get in this, we call them no man's land, where it's like, at least in the professional service space, if you're listening to this, like that 400 to 500K revenue for like a lawyer, a CPA, a financial advisor, that's the first no man's land, because you're taking home 75% of what you're making, but you don't really have a business. You just have a high paying job,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and it's not structured. It's not structured in a way that would allow you to grow it as a business because you're not charging what you'd need to bring on somebody else and continue to make money and the overhead. And I've seen that a lot with my clients running traffic. There are people that I love that you called it no man's land, but they just hit that glass ceiling from, freelancer slash solopreneur to business owner because their model doesn't allow for the infrastructure necessary to actually grow it as a business. How do you fix that? What do you do outside of just raising your fees?
This is advice Perry gave me about a year and a half ago when I did my first $3 million year and like netted $1 million. He's like, you either have to decide if you're gonna stay right there and just lean out and be comfortable with that, or you have to get out of no man's land as quick as possible. He's like, you
Yeah,
got to go from 3 to 8, 3 to 5, 3 to
right.
8. Like you have to grow through that, so then you can afford to hire, smarter people than you, C-level staff, people who are going to run your day-to-day operation. Because at where I was before, it's like, this is it. I either need to, if I'm going to lean out and stay right here, or if I'm going to grow. And if I'm going to grow, I have to do it quick. It's like Elon Musk said, take your 10-year goals, try to achieve them in the next 6 months. If it doesn't happen, you'll be further than where you thought you would be.
I love that a lot, dude. This has been great, man. Where can people, if they want to hear more from you, where do they go to follow you?
All social medias is Ryan Bakke CPA, at Ryan Bakke CPA. And I have a podcast too, Ryan Bakke Show. I talk about tax strategies for real estate investors, business owners, as well as kind of what I have going on in my life and running multiple CPA firms.
Love it. Bakke spelled Bakke. Ryan, thanks for being here, man. And
You're
to our
welcome. Thank you.
listeners, Ryan Bakke proves that accounting doesn't have to be dull. In fact, with the right mix of marketing systems and vision, it can be one of the most scalable business models out there. From hitting millionaire status at 25 to running a multi-million-dollar firm to helping others escape corporate burnout, Ryan is redefining what's possible for service-based entrepreneurs. If you've ever wondered how to mix real business fundamentals with storytelling, automation, and smart acquisition, this episode with Ryan Bakke will change the way you think about growth. Ryan, you truly are one of the world's greatest minds. Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
You've just heard another powerful episode on World's Greatest Minds. For links, resources, and full show notes from this episode, go to worldsgreatestminds.com, where you can also subscribe so you never miss another episode. Drop us a review because your feedback fuels the mission, and share this with somebody who's willing to buck the status quo. Most importantly, tell us who you think we should interview next. Nominate the people who you believe have the results, the track record, and the brilliance to truly qualify as one of the world's greatest minds. Join us weekly as we forge innovation in real time. This is World's Greatest Mind. The revolution of thought continues with you.